right. So theoretically, we're live, but my chat hasn't started up yet. So until I see the chat going, there's no proof. Okay, it looks like we're now live. All right. I'm gonna like shameless blast plug spam my Discord, and then we're gonna rock and roll.
Sounds good.
Let's see, here we go. We are live now, talking with Harmony Ginger about Braunstein and Godstein campaigns. Come join the fun. Hey. Yeah, everyone should be good. There we go. Whee! All right. Looking good. All right, you ready to rock and roll? You ready to go on the big screen?
I'm ready.
All right, I got a drink first.
Oh, I love that mug. Where'd you get it?
This mug here, it's actually,
Yeah.
Hold on a second. I think I got this off Amazon. Did I get it off Amazon? No, I think I got this off from Etsy, actually, from a place that no longer exists, because they were supposedly gonna do this. Like, this is the reason I don't do what do they call it when like you plug someone's product and then you get commission? Well, not sponsors, but like they send you commissions on it or something. Yeah, this is why I don't work for commissions, because like you talk with a guy and he's like, oh yeah, we could do like commissions if people want to get the mug and stuff, and then he disappears and he's nowhere to be seen. It's just like a big waste of time. Or I've had commission deals where they'll do every quarter they'll send you like a percentage of your sales or something, and then like you don't hear from them for half a year. And you're like, hey, did this sell nothing? And they're like, oh, I'm sorry, we forgot. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you forgot.
Affiliate is the word.
Affiliate, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not gonna sit here and be like tracking down all my affiliate sales if companies can't be responsible. It's just silly, you know what I mean? So anyway,
Yeah.
So that's why I don't do affiliate work. It's like pay up front if you want to sponsor, or I don't do it because it's not worth my time. So
I don't do affiliate deals either.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
Because I'm a bad salesperson.
Oh,
I can't do it.
Yeah, I'm probably bad too. But the biggest problem with this is totally not anything to do with the live stream, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk about something else, I swear. But the biggest problem with affiliate stuff is like it's probably way better for the company than it is for the actual like content creator or whatever, you know, because you have to like bust the pavement to try to get sales and crap. You know, essentially, and it's just like, I don't know, man. I don't want to do that crap. So anyway, I'd rather people just not sponsor me, and then I can just talk about my own crap. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, we have a Valentine's sale going on right now. You have today and tomorrow. You can save up to 50% on the DM Lair store. I should probably. Oh, I wasn't ready. Oh no. Hold on a second. I have to hold on. Let's go to the DM Lair. I'm going to show you guys the store sale. Everybody's like, Luke, you're so sleazy. I know. All right, so the DMLair.com, we have a Valentine's sale going on. Where's all this noise? My dog's barking. Good gravy. Anyway, Valentine's sale. Go over here. There's 2 discount codes at the very top. You just plug them in at checkout. You can get up to 50% off everything on the DM Lair store. So it's gonna end tomorrow. Tomorrow's the last day. So go over and do that if you care. Like if you don't care about that stuff, then just don't do it. Too busy working.
I have bought something from
really
the
get too
DM
deep
Lair
into that
store
stuff.
before.
Yeah, what did you get?
Yeah, I got the Lairs and Legends and Loot and Lore books.
Oh, cool, sweet. Those things are like our best sellers.
Yeah, the Loot and Lore was it's actually up there in my top 5 RPG supplements that I've used.
Thank you.
Really, since I can remember. I like that one a lot.
Which resources in it do you like the most?
So the random tables are pretty good, but I like the factions. I've
Oh,
reskinned a lot
really?
of the factions and
Okay.
used them in my own games. I especially like, you guys had a faction in there that
Mm.
somebody came up with called, oh, it was like the Gardening Society or something. I totally just stole it.
That name sounds super familiar.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was that was my favorite one. I stole that for one of my games.
Yeah.
My players, if they're listening, they're probably thinking, you didn't make that up. No, I stole it from Luke.
Well, that's what that stuff exists for. And honestly, like that sounds like so when you said the Gardening Society, two of our writers came to mind. And I'm not sure which one wrote it, but I'm pretty sure one of them wrote it because that sounds like something they would have written. And it's a great reason to like pay other writers, with like different like personalities, preferences, and like brains, because they'll give creative stuff that I would have never made a Gardening Society if I had been writing that stuff. So
Oh, they weren't
yeah.
really a gardening society,
No?
though. They were an assassin's guild.
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah,
But like,
I really liked them.
we kill you and then we plant you and then we grow. You're pushing up posies. All right, nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a great description. And I liked the quest seeds in there too. There were so many quest seeds.
Oh yes, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good stuff. Yeah.
So what's the affiliate payout?
What affiliate payout? Oh, for you? Oh yeah. I'll I'll send you something for that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm joined by Harmony Ginger here on the stream tonight. We're going to be talking about Braunstein campaigns, Godstein campaigns, which is something she created based upon Braunstein. And we're going to talk about one-to-one timekeeping too. And my understanding is that these are somehow controversial topics because they're old school topics, and apparently old school stuff that was made by Gary Gygax or has something to do with him is apparently bad these days, which is absolutely stupid and ridiculous. But some people get worked up about it, so we should have fun tonight. Anyway, Harmony, please tell us about yourself, whatever you want to share, that you feel comfortable. Don't give us your address and stuff. That'd be very bad, but go for it.
Hi, I am Harmony Ginger, at Ginger Blast on Twitter, Harmony_Ginger on YouTube. I don't really post a lot of videos on YouTube. I do live streams though, kind of like this one. And I am Harmony Ginger on Substack as well, where I have been blogging a little bit about the campaign that I'd like to talk about today. Yeah, that's me. I'm mostly a hobbyist. I don't really have any products for sale, nothing to shill here or anything.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I know Twitter's or X, I suppose is what we're supposed to call it, is where I usually like see you and interact with you and stuff.
Yeah.
So apparently,
Yeah,
my Tuesday video was about you, according to people talking about the thumbnail.
Yeah, I've ruined red hair for like everybody because for everybody like associated with me, because whenever they see a thumbnail with a redheaded girl making the the whatever face, and it was like, just shut up, this D&D player thinks the world revolves around her. So people are like
entitled D&D player, yeah.
Entitled, yeah. So people are putting that under my posts on Twitter now.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, so like that's just a stock photo. So I used deposit photos most of the time. I just literally went on there and I typed in, because I was like brainstorming the idea for the thumbnail. I'm like, I should just have like, it's an entitled D&D player, so I need like a picture of a player. Okay, cool. All right, let's just look for photos about angry. I think I typed in angry nerd girl is I think what I put in, and then I got like a bunch of lists, and then that one, she had a pink sweatshirt on, or a sweater or something, and I was like, pink's a good eye-catching color. It's very bright. And then especially if I put a black background on it, and if the text is pink, I'm like, there's a lot of contrast there. So I'm like, that's a pretty good picture. And so then I picked that one. Yeah, that was my thought process.
I heard about it because people were tagging me on a Gilded server saying, "Is this you?"
Yeah.
Were you in Luke's game? What did you do?
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. And that's like that story is completely fabricated too. That player doesn't actually exist. It's a composite of like different people and things, because like I don't really actually want to talk about my actual players that have been horrible, because I feel like that's a little because they might see it, and then it's like, oh, Luke just blasted me publicly. You know, I don't know. Even if I didn't say their name, it's like, I don't know. I don't know. There was once I said something, and then later on, that person actually saw it, and I was like, oh, that's a bad call, Luke. You shouldn't do that. And so now I don't want to do that. So like, if you see in my videos where I'm like, yeah, I had this player, chances are I didn't, and I'm just like making up a story, because if I make like that video actually for Tuesday, was the whole point of that video was to teach people about ttrpg etiquette. And so I had about 10 etiquette points I wanted to make. And so instead of just saying point number 1, point number 2, I was like, if I can package this into a story, people might watch more of it and learn from it, you know what I mean, as opposed to just not watching it at all. And so that was my attempt to like repackage some teaching into a story, so that people would probably maybe watch it more and learn from it. So that's kind of what I was doing there. So that's how I justify my lying, by the way.
I think it works. I mean, it's better to do that than actually put players on blast, because that's something I would never do. I shared this stream with my players just a couple minutes ago, and I said I'm going to be talking trash about one of you on here, but I'm not telling who. So
oh, nice.
Hopefully they'll yeah. So you know, that's my marketing. But yeah, no, putting actual players, or really just like not players, but that's something I try not to do, since I guess I don't have like nearly the platform you do, but I have like a little bit of a platform. That's something I try not to do, is put other creators, players, or anyone on blast. It's tempting to like go on YouTube and just rant and get it all out, but like you can't do it.
Yeah.
It's better to just lie and make stuff up.
I have a disclaimer in the video. I do have a disclaimer that person doesn't actually exist. Now the disclaimer is about 3/4 of the way through, if not toward the end. But like, if somebody doesn't watch the entire video, my theory is that's their own fault. That's their own fault. You know what I mean? They should, if they would, I don't know. I'm just making up justifications. But let's talk about one-to-one timekeeping. So we're talking about, we're going to talk about Braunstein campaigns and Godstein campaigns, but it sounds like the basis of both of those types of running games is one-to-one timekeeping. So tell us about one-to-one timekeeping. What is it? Where did it come from? And why does it tick people off?
Right. So one-to-one timekeeping actually started in OD&D. There is a line in the book that says the best practice is if you run timekeeping just by the general guideline of 1 real life day equals 1 in-game day. And that rule is mostly for downtime. It doesn't necessarily like cover things in the session. So for example, if my game session is on Wednesday, which it is, then that Wednesday session can cover like anything that happens that week. It doesn't necessarily need to be like, well, we have a 4-hour session, so since we're traveling, we just have to wait 4 hours of real time while we travel. No.
That'd be a crappy game session.
Right. We can cover like exactly. Like that's what people have asked me that before too. People have been like, okay, so do you like in real time cover like character bathroom breaks? Like, no.
All right, everybody go do something for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't have to go, then just sit there.
But it covers basically anything that would happen that week. And basically, if the characters take too long, if they cover like more than that week, if we cover 2 weeks, then those characters are going to actually be frozen until the world catches up with that. If we cover too little time, so if it's just like 1 day that we cover, let's say they delve into like the sewers or something, and they come out in bad shape, but we've covered 1 day of game time, then they'll have like a week of downtime afterwards. And there are plenty of downtime rules. I know your channel mostly covers Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition and Pathfinder 2e, I believe. I don't know what the downtime rules in Pathfinder are, but in 5th edition, there is a lot of downtime stuff that can be done in a week. So, I mean, things like training to level, which is a variant rule in 5e. Things like resting, which if you're using this, you should probably use the gritty realism resting rules. It really helps with that. Things like carousing and crafting, they're scribing scrolls, investigations, crime, pit fighting. There's so many things that can be done in downtime.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Pathfinder has it has some downtime activities, but to be perfectly honest, there are large swaths of Pathfinder 2 that I don't follow rules, and I just kind of like roll some dice and make it up, because like it gets a little bit too crunchy at times. And downtime is one of them, where I'm just kind of like, yeah, you're gonna do pit fighting, let's just do 3 rolls instead of like, let's look up the rules and see how this works, you know.
Yeah,
so,
the rules are like 3 rolls.
Yeah.
You did it right. Look at that. But the more fun part about that stuff is there are also like complication rules. Like with pit fighting, there is a chance of a complication where you might get thrown out of the pit fighting bar and you can't come back, or maybe there's a rival that is upset at you and hunts you down afterwards, or somebody might pay you to lose on purpose, things like that. And these things, you don't necessarily have to do them, but they form like a good basis for an adventure. Like a lot of times, I don't really know what my players are wanting to do because I don't run like a plot-driven adventure. I'm sorry, I just heard a crash. It was a cat, I guess.
It was your cat. He knocked something over.
Did you see it?
No.
Oh.
It's just, I mean, if you have 2 cats and there was a weird noise, it was a cat.
Yeah, okay. Basic deduction. I forgot what I was saying. I'm sorry. Oh, right.
Downtime?
This stuff forms like the basis for an adventure a lot of times, because I don't run like a linear plot-driven adventure generally. I run a living world. Yeah. And that's really what one-to-one time does, is it keeps your world moving at the same speed of the real world. So I use things like moon phases, which happen in real life. And what is the moon phase in my game right now? Well, it's the same as in the real world. Yeah. Is it usually I do that by weeks though. Like if it's the week of the full moon, week of the new moon, new moon, easy. So you can do like moon phases, seasons, sometimes holidays, because while your game world probably doesn't celebrate Christmas, a lot of game worlds celebrate something roughly analogous, Festivus or whatever.
Festivus for the rest of us.
Yes.
Get the poll. Yes. I love Seinfeld. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Yeah.
Wow. I haven't heard a Seinfeld reference in a long time. I was not guessing Seinfeld.
Oh yeah, Festivus is from, well, I mean, that's how I learned about it, from Seinfeld. It was like George's father.
Was it? Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it came from Seinfeld. All I know is that they do use it in Seinfeld. So like George's father, instead of celebrating Christmas, they celebrate Festivus, and they literally put up essentially a stripper pole in their living room, and it's the Festivus pole. I don't know, it doesn't make any sense, but yeah, it's a Seinfeld thing.
Luke before the show, don't use adult language or talk about adult subjects. Luke during the show, oh yeah, the stripper pole in the living room. Gotcha.
Well, I mean, it's not technically a stripper pole. They don't use it for that. But I mean, it's a pole in the living room, and that's what it looks like. So.
I'm sorry. But really what one-to-one timekeeping does is it keeps your world moving on a reasonable time scale. It means that your players will be around results of their actions generally, if their actions have somewhat immediate consequences and not like a century down the line consequences. Of course, you can do time skips too, like multiple years. So it keeps the world moving. And also a lot of times when you're like frozen, let's say you cover like 4 weeks of game time in a week, and like you got to wait for the real world clock to catch up with your characters to do anything, that gives you a perfect excuse to like look at another part of the world and see what's happening in this city. And I know I know your players have like a list of alts they want to play. Oh yeah. They have, I've never tried to play a rogue before. I want to play a rogue, which is totally not true to me. I love playing rogues. But
rogues are the best.
Yeah. So I mean, it allows you to kind of look at multiple spots. And also with this time scale, like what you can do is it allows you to merge with another DM. Like in my campaign, I have like 6 DMs that sort of like run in the same world. So it gets a little bit hectic, but it allows you to do that if everybody's working on the same time scale, which is a must for multiple DMs.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I need to go open the door to let my cats out, because somebody in the comments asked where Squeaky is. And I realized that I have the door closed because I locked them into. So this is the finished part of the basement, and there's another half of the basement that's not finished, and that's where they have all their food. And when they eat their food, I close the door to that side for 2 reasons. One, cats puke after eating sometimes, and so we keep them all in the unfinished part of the house to puke, right? 2, my dog will go in there and steal their food. So I'm gonna go open the door right now. But one of the things I'm interested in knowing, one of my immediate questions is for one-to-one timekeeping, and you can talk while I walk over there. But one of my immediate questions for one-to-one timekeeping is that if it's one-to-one and the time keeps on rolling, you know, what happens if like I run a lot of dungeon delve adventures, you know, that's like go on the adventure and do this stuff. I'm in the middle of the dungeon, you know, and then we're at the end of the game, you know what I mean? And we're like, okay, what happens? Like, are we gonna pause time? Does time keep on rolling for a week while we're in the dungeon, and what happens? So like, what are the different ways a game master can like run that? Because I believe there's a few different ways that situation can be handled. So if you can jump into that, I'll go get Squeaky.
It's actually interesting. There was a module, I believe it was in AD&D. I want to say it was it's not something Amber. Castle Amber, is that it? I believe it is called Castle Amber, that has a built-in solution where like a magical mist envelops the characters for the week that they're gone. Now, I don't use a magical mist. I don't even think that's a really good serviceable solution. But I just think it's interesting that a module has actually address this. However, I do that a couple ways. So generally when you change how the game functions and you tell your players, you know, you probably need to head back to town for a week or you're not going to get a long rest, then they will adapt to the new rules. So if they know that they shouldn't be ending in a dungeon, then they will probably like plan to not do that and play based on the rules at hand. However, sometimes it happens. Sometimes people have to go early. You know, you have a sudden end. If that happens, as long as it's not going to really affect anybody else in the world, if you have multiple groups, it might. So you have to kind of use this option with some, what's the word? Jurisprudence? I don't know. You can't use it too liberally, but you can go ahead and call a pause in the dungeon and let the week pass. The week doesn't pass in your game world, just in real life, and then unpause when they finish it out, get them back to town, and then say, you know, you guys have an extra week of downtime. You have 2 weeks instead of 1 week downtime here, just to let the game world catch up to the real world. So you can do that. It's not my preferred solution. Oh, I think we might be having technical issues. Are we?
Yeah, it's my problem. We're back now.
Okay.
I have let me turn something off down here. Give me a second.
I have no idea if we're still live.
We are. We're still live.
Oh, okay. Because on my screen, I have the stream up and I look to be frozen in the worst face possible, as always happens. So, looks good actually. I think we're up.
Everything froze for a second. I have an external hard drive that for some reason does weird crap, and like will cause stuff on my computer to freeze. So that's what happened. But I turned it off, so we should be okay now. So that's my fault, everybody. Just blame me. Leave angry comments.
Well, I would prefer if next time we have technical issues, if we can freeze while I'm looking cute and not whatever.
100%. You know, you could have your lawyer talk to my lawyer. We'll do a settlement or something. You know, and then you can wrap in the affiliate getting screwed on the affiliate job too. You know, into all that. Yeah, we'll get that all taken care of. Yeah, chat says we're still good actually. So apparently we never froze, and it was just me. It was on my end. I'm the problem. All right. Well, that's fair. So like I was reading more about one-to-one timekeeping, and I researched like what are you supposed to do, you know, when you're in the middle of the dungeon and stuff. And like one of the things was freeze it, like you said. The other was basically players need to plan for it. They need to plan for their time. They need to plan how to do it. Like, and if you're getting to the end of a game session, leave or something. Or if you actually end there, maybe the game master adjudicates what happens to you while you're in the dungeon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Yeah, some people have done that. That's a little bit weird, and normally I will just kind of have them pause and then pick up the next time. They'll finish it out, and then they'll have an extra week of downtime to catch up.
Yeah.
That's generally my preferred method of dealing with it, but it doesn't come up a lot because, I mean, if you're not having players ration resources while you're in a dungeon, then that I mean, then maybe it would, but you know, I don't really let my players rest in dungeons.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, yeah, it should be dangerous rest in dungeons. Like I'm running a Shadow Dark one shot right now that's turning into a campaign, and I don't think they ever rest in dungeons. When they need to rest, they leave the dungeon, they travel back to town, and they rest in town. Now they also have another motivation because you can carouse in Shadow Dark, which gets you experience points. Shadow Dark experience points are all based upon gold that you get, which is actually a really cool mechanic, and I really like it. It's better than killing monsters now that I've been doing it for a while. But so they'll never rest in a dungeon. They leave, they go back. Well, the other problem is if you're resting in a dungeon, how many torches do you need to like keep burning them so you're not in the darkness? It gets dangerous when it's dark. So it's like there's lots of reasons to not rest in the dungeon. But anyway, I like it. I like the whole mechanic of they can't rest in the dungeon. They have to leave and come back. And then every single time they do that, I change some stuff because they've been gone for a day, So there are monsters that repopulate or something happens, like the environment changes a little bit, and then there's this sense of it being a real living, breathing world, and I'm actually planning on turning. So like before we had this stream, you came on, we had a little chat, about a half an hour or so about some of these things, you know what I mean? And after having that talk with you, I'm planning on, like I said, I'm turning my Shadow Dark one shot into an ongoing campaign. So after we talked about that, dude, my Shadow Dark campaign is literally going to be 1-to-1 timekeeping, and it's going to be Godstein. So there are I crap you not. Like after I talked with you about that, I was like, that sounds so cool, and I've never done that before. And I'm like, that sounds amazing. Now, some of the viewers aren't going to know what I'm talking about exactly because we haven't gotten into these points quite yet, but you'll understand later. But it sounded, and maybe this will help hype up the topic, but it sounded so cool to me that I'm like, I need to do that. I need to run 1-to-1 timekeeping, Braunstein and Godstein. And so I'm having my Shadow Dark campaign is starting up. It's going to start on Start Playing. It's actually listed right now, so you can go find it on Start Playing. My current players have priority in getting spots, but anybody can apply to it. And you have to apply, and then I have to approve or reject you. But anyway, I'm going to start that Shadow Dark campaign up. In our very first game session, we're going to create the pantheon, the deities, and then we're going to create the parts of the world together. Like our first game session is probably going to be doing this world creation together, and then I told my players, I'm like, and this is kind of going to be like a sort of like a West Marches type thing where we're going to create the world together, and then you guys are going to tell me what you want to do. You tell me, like, you make your characters and you tell me what your goals and what you want to do. And then they're going to say, yeah, Luke, well, we all decided that we're going to be mercenaries working to like undermine the current king over here. And so over here in the world, there's like some gold mines that he runs. We want to sabotage them. We want an adventure to do that. Cool. I'll go off and make that adventure and then we'll play it. You know what I mean? And so that's the kind of campaign I want to run, where they make the world and they tell me what they want to do, and then I just kind of run it. But I want to use the 1-to-1 timekeeping so that things are always running, and we're doing lots of little downtime activities, and stuff's always progressing and the world's changing, so like you got me. I was like all amped up. I'm like, that sounds so cool. And I think Shadow Dark is like, because it's so rules light, I think it would be a really good candidate for that type of campaign too, because you don't got to worry about all this nitty gritty rules to follow. You just kind of like, we'll just make stuff up and it'll work, so anyway, I'm excited. Yeah. I'm excited to do that.
The one thing I would say about Shadow Dark and doing it, and I've read Shadow Dark.
Yeah.
But the one thing I would say about it is Shadow Dark does not, at least in the base book, I haven't actually read the expansion books, but it doesn't have the downtime activities, so you're going to have to kind of add those in yourself from different editions. But yeah, I mean, it should work just fine for it. Other than that, I believe.
Yeah, I'll just ad lib it all. They'll just tell me what they want to do, and I'll make some dice rolls, and I'll just adjudicate it. I'll kind of just wing it all, because like I don't need like super specific rules to be able to do that. In fact, there's a certain extent to where it's easier to run a game in certain instances when you don't have specific rules. Like I find that for combat, it's good to have very specific rules because there's a lot that rides on combat, you know what I mean? And if you're just kind of winging crap in combat, that, in my opinion, that's not a very satisfactory experience. But like outside of combat, I'm a lot looser in certain ways with certain things, you know what I mean? And it doesn't bother me quite so much to just kind of make some stuff up. So, and Shadow Dark lends it really well to that, so.
I would say to that, that works just fine as long as you can be consistent about it. The only issue I run into with that is in my campaign, we have 6 different DMs.
Yeah.
And so we have to kind of work with a fairly standard set of downtime rules for things like I mean, it does sort of make sense if, like, in some parts of the world, this works differently. Like, perhaps it's more lucrative to go pit fighting if you're in the wrestling capital of the world, which exists in my world because we have a god of wrestling. That was one of the gods the players created.
Nice.
But
Nice.
so, I mean, it does sort of make sense in some ways, but it is nice if multiple DMs are fairly standard the way they adjudicate things. I know you're never going to get 100% with that. There's always going to be some fluctuation, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, and consistency is important, which is one of the reasons that I usually almost always advocate for running rules as written, because it helps with that consistency for players. If you're onboarding a new player, they know what the rules are. You know, as a game master, I can remember the rules because they're in the book. I just look them up. You know, otherwise, if you're going to have a whole bunch of homebrew, it really needs to be written down so that everybody knows what the rules are, and then you can keep track of it too. So I don't like to do a whole bunch of house rules because, like, it's more bookkeeping for me, and I have a bad memory, and so I would probably screw things up, you know.
So I'm not actually against house ruling things. I just I don't like on the spot house rules, and I think that when you're starting a system that you should play rules as written to until you understand and can master them. And then if you want to change a couple things here and there, you just have to be very careful and not throw out any load bearing rules that have ripple effects that you didn't intend. But yeah, and I also advocate if you do change rules, if you do homebrew, your players need to have a clear written record of what that is, because I think rules are a very good thing for a game because they empower players to do things within the framework of the rules, and it allows them to plan ahead so you're not playing like Mother May I, and you're actually saying like, I want to plan to do this. The rules say it works this way, and you can have reasonable trust that your DM is going to adjudicate it that same way.
Correct. 100% agree.
Yeah.
I have a friend who, like, when he first started playing 5th edition, within he was a game master. Within a couple game sessions, he like was homebrewing all of this stuff for 5th edition, and I'm just like, and then I was talking to him about this. I wasn't in his game, but he was telling me about this after the fact. And he was talking to me like, dude, you didn't even understand the game mechanics behind the core system. How are you already homebrewing stuff? You know what I mean? He's like, oh, I just like doing it that way. I'm just like, no, man, no. You should probably run that thing for a year or something with rules as written so that you can understand it and learn. Like, you know, you just pick that thing up and you don't even know that it uses bounded accuracy. And then you're just like homebrewing crap. And like, you know, I don't know. So yeah, you got to run it for a while to understand it. I think, my opinion, before you should start like tweaking a whole bunch of crap, especially if it's a load bearing thing, like you said. You know what I mean? Like if you don't understand that it uses bounded accuracy, and you just start doing like, you know, everything's kind of like a linear line that goes up, and you start homebrewing stuff that doesn't account for bounded accuracy, that's a load bearing thing, and things that get screwed up because you know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, let's do a shameless plug. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a Valentine's Day sale going on right now. You can head on over to the dmlair.com. There are 2 discount codes up here. You can get up to 50% off everything on our store. And we have over here Layers and Legends and Loot and Lore, over 700 pages of resources. We got A Secret Art of Game Mastery if you're a new game master. Tons of good information in this book. And then if you want to just get every stinking book that we have this DM Lair Ultimate collection too. And through tomorrow is the last day, through tomorrow, you can get up to 50% off. So you just use these 2 codes at the very top here, enter both of these codes at checkout, and the appropriate discounts will be applied to your cart. So go check out this crap. You might find it useful. And if you don't, you can just get angry at me and yell at me, and that's all good. All right, there's my shameless plug. Oh, we have a giveaway going on too. We have a giveaway. There's a link in the chat. Look for the money bags in the chat. That'll have a link to our giveaway. And then we're gonna give away $50 DM Lair store credit. So like if you win the giveaway, your $50 will get you a whole bunch more crap because of the sale and stuff. So it's like bonus. All right, there's my shameless plug. Oh, there's a question about this. Trinda says, can you use the 2 discount codes on the same order? Yes. In fact, use both discount codes. Put them both in. Because if you fill your cart up with a bunch of different stuff, the discount codes apply to different products. And so you absolutely want to add everything to your cart and then you enter one discount code, enter it, it'll apply discounts. Enter the second discount code, apply it, and then it'll apply that discount to other stuff. So yes, use both of them. That's how it's supposed to be. Yep, absolutely. Okay, cool. Got it. Username says, Luke, be nicer to yourself. You make cool stuff. It isn't crap. That's just how I talk. That's just how I talk. So. Okay, so we talked about one-to-one timekeeping. And that's kind of the basis of the Braunstein campaign, or at least it's like a pillar, right? Like Braunstein campaigns use one-to-one timekeeping. Is that correct?
So not quite.
No.
Actually.
Okay.
No. So I use Braunstein. You actually say it correctly. I don't say it correctly. I say Braunstein because that is my regional dialect.
Okay.
But you actually say it correctly, so
Cool.
that's great. But one-to-one timekeeping doesn't necessarily form the basis of a Braunstein. In fact, a Braunstein is actually a one-shot type game. It was created by a man named David Wesley in the 60s.
Okay.
Basically, it was more of a LARP game, very similar to Diplomacy. Basically, it took place in the town of Braunstein, which was or Braunstein, which was a college town, and each player would be assigned a different role. They might be the chancellor or a student or the president, or there were a ton of different roles, and there would be like 20 players, right? Maybe more. I don't actually remember the exact player count, but they would have to resolve conflicts and deal with a referee one-on-one. The referee was usually David Wesley, and they would have to basically negotiate and talk amongst themselves, and each of them would have hidden information that the others didn't know. It's more of a LARP. So basically, the idea was it was multiple players operating in conflict under a fog of war with a referee. And it was like sort of a LARP style game where people were allying with each other and conflict with each other. And, everyone had a knife ready to stick in someone's back, right? And that is more of the basis of the player dynamics that I strive for. So when I use Braunstein mostly to mean mostly to describe the player dynamics. And the Godstein was basically one time, kind of a one shot. I did it in a 2-shot. I did it in like 2 4-hour game sessions with rounds where basically players would negotiate. They would submit an order secretly to me. I would adjudicate their orders on the map. If there was a conflict, then I'd have like a conflict resolution mechanism in place, which we don't really need to cover that. I kind of went through a couple different conflict resolution mechanisms. I have a better one now, I think, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. But so they would submit an order secretly, which, by the way, they could tell each other what they were doing, of course, but they could totally lie. Like I could say, yeah, that territory is yours to take. Sure. Absolutely. I'm not going to do anything. And then I submit to the order, or I submit to the referee. If Luke sends his army here, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill them all. And so, there's a lot of negotiating and backstabbing with that, right? So
now
basically, that was the Braunstein.
So the way you're describing this, it sounds like you mentioned armies and stuff. So it sounds like the players are like operating at a higher level in the world than just like, I am one character in an adventuring party. Like, it sounds like they might have like towns or villages they control or something.
So it depends on how you run the Braunstein or what type of Braunstein you are running. I ran a game. I don't know if you want to get into the Godstein portion yet here, but I ran a game where the basis for my world was over an 8-hour Braunstein, 2 4-hour sessions, where each player operated as a god in the world. The gods were made by the players. They drafted from a list of 20 domains. They drew 3 of them. They kept 2. So the domains were like war, peace, chaos, order, nature, light, life. So basically the cleric domains, right?
Yeah.
But there were 20 of them. They drew 3, they kept 2. They basically crafted a god based on those domains. They came up with a goal for their god. They came like what the world would look like if their god was in charge of it. And basically during the Braunstein, they first molded the terrain the way they wanted. And they, made cities, made their capital city, and basically took actions in the world to mold it into what their god would want and kind of guide their civilizations to what their god would want, basically. And there was a good bit of intrigue. We definitely had a couple plagues going on, some fighting. it was pretty great. But so the word Braunstein I really used to describe the player dynamics, whereas the Godstein was the genesis of the world.
Yeah.
And I've kept it going since then. Like each player still operates as their god in the game now that they're playing player characters.
Yeah. So
which is interesting.
So at the very beginning then of this Godstein, essentially each player was role-playing a deity in the game world, right? And then they essentially, over a few game sessions, they were role-playing their deities and doing stuff in the world. And sometimes they were in conflict, maybe sometimes they weren't and stuff, but over a few game sessions, they played their deities out, and that crafted the world, that created the world that currently exists, right? Okay. Yes. And so they played a 100% active role in world building and deciding the world they play in. And because they were so actively involved in it, they knew that world and stuff. So then when it moved from that into actually playing player characters, right? They knew the world and stuff. But I'm just thinking about how incredibly invested the players must be in that world and game, because it's like, I made this thing and I did all these things, and then they have the player, right? Once they're an actual character, probably they're aligned with their deity that created everything. I would imagine a lot of them would do that. Maybe, I don't know. How did that work out?
Yeah, I went back and forth on, can a player worship their own deity? At first I said yes, and I wish I hadn't. I wish I'd told them no. If you make a cleric, it must be a cleric of another deity. I wish I had done that, because I ended up changing it. I ended up later saying, nope, no more clerics that worship your own deity.
Well, what happened? Why did it not work that well?
Because too many people were doing it, and I wanted interaction. I wanted the dwarf god to have a character that worshipped the gnome god, because I think it works better for cleric dynamics. Because in old editions of the game, in AD&D specifically, which I don't run AD&D by the way, I just reference it a lot.
Yeah.
Your deity decides what spells you get. Like your cleric actually prays to the deity for certain spells to prepare, and the deity can say no. That's in the rules of AD&D. Like your deity can tell you, no, you can't have this spell, but instead I'm going to give you this one.
So if the player has to play a cleric of a different deity, a different player can say yes or no, instead of the player playing his own deity always saying yes to what he wants. That totally. So then you have some player dynamics too. That's even. So like I can see that could be like some really extreme role playing, like really deep. That can be really cool. I can also see though that there might be some out of character stuff that could influence some role playing too. Like for instance, if out of character I'm a little peed, like upset that like Stacy did this thing in the game, I might, as the deity of her character, then say, no, you're not getting that. So did that sort of thing ever happen that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think we've had anything like that. We have had gods after the Braunstein session of the campaign, after the Godstein, after the world was kind of set up, which by the way, that lasted 7 rounds. I think each round was like 200 or 300 years or something. So we ended up with like something that ended at roughly the year 2000-ish. So we're like, you know what? It's the year 2024. We're going to use that year. And
that's easier.
So we synced it up. But after that, I gave the gods a resource to work with, and they would get more of that resource for basically participating in the game. So like if a character got to a level, the level 5 or above, the player who controlled it would get a mana. I called the resource mana. There were other things like if a cleric is dedicated to your god and you don't control the cleric, if they got to level 5, then you would get a mana, and so would the player controlling it. So and also like players committing quests, what's the word, completing quests for your deity would give your deity a mana, and basically that resource could be used to bless characters in the world. So give them feats, essentially. It could be, if you had a lot of it, you could use it to give someone a feat. You could also use it to send powerful monsters after characters. So we have had that. We have had a god kind of send some nasty monsters. I'm afraid to speak to what's the word, direct about this, because it hasn't entirely been resolved yet.
Yeah,
so
you could be giving away
I don't
some
know.
stuff. Yeah.
But so as far as I'm aware, we haven't had out of game things that have influenced in-game stuff.
Yeah.
But I can't speak for all the players, so.
Yeah, I mean, if it's interesting because at the very beginning you said that part of the dynamic you have in your games is you want that dynamic of a player might at any time just have a dagger ready to stick in somebody else's back type of thing, you know. So there's definitely PvP in your world. But it sounds like from what you're saying, the way you're talking, your players are very mature and they're able to handle that, right?
So this sort of campaign, I think, has a different PvP dynamic than the typical 5e game. So when I think a typical 5e game, I think like something like Curse of Strahd. If you're running Curse of Strahd and your players are attacking each other, you've done something wrong.
Yeah.
And that dynamic is actually very unhealthy for the campaign, because I mean, your players are all characters that have been together the whole campaign.
Yeah.
And like if they start fighting, that's going to bleed over into table conflict. But with something like this, the characters sort of move around. My game is actually run 4 times a week. I'm not at all of these. I don't even show up to all of these.
You don't even go to your own game. You don't even go to your own game. What is this?
They tell me what happens.
Oh my gosh. I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to start running games where I get paid, right? And I don't even have to go. This is beautiful. I need to figure this out. Wow. This is like this is a money-making machine right here. I just got to figure it out. Nice.
Wow. So anyway, I have like a lot of different groups in the world. Like there are like 5 or 6 different groups in the world right now.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, my world's about the size of the UK, so it's not that big. So they're definitely like gonna run into each other, which has been great so far. But so basically, when the players have a bigger investment in the world than just their character, like we have 15 total players in the game. Some of them go to one game a week, some of them go to 2, and a couple of them go to 3. But you never know who's going to be at what game, right? So the groups are constantly changing. So your cleric might adventure with a rogue, fighter, and barbarian one week, and then the next week your cleric might be adventuring with the same rogue and a ranger and someone else who you've never met before. So the PvP dynamics in this game are actually a little bit better, because you're a lot of times pushed together with people because of necessity, and they're not like long-term adventuring partners. Not always, at least. Sometimes they are.
Yeah.
But also, your investment in the world is primarily through your god. And you might have 3, 4, or 5 characters in the game. So if one of your characters is in like a spy versus spy assassin duel with a rogue from another group, which is happening, by the way, and you lose that character, well, you know, you have other buy-in. That's not that's not like your total buy-in in the campaign.
Yeah.
Because you still have your god. So, I mean, it's not that bad, but also I think that it provides a framework in which PvP is a little bit more acceptable. Now, we still don't have a ton of PvP, but we certainly have some.
Okay, I mean, that makes sense, especially if, like, because in a standard game, your character, that's all you got, you know, and a lot of players put a lot of time into working up this backstory and all this stuff, and there's a huge investment. And then especially if you've had that character for like a year, and then some PvP happens or they die or something bad, then that could ruffle some feathers. But if your primary investment in the world is first and foremost your deity and all the different things, you know, and then if you have multiple characters because it can run in different places in the world and stuff, that makes sense. I can see like you run this in D&D 5th edition, you told me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
So I can also see that, like, if you were, I mean, I say you generically, but if a game master were using a rules light system, that would probably make character death and PvP even more palatable, because then it's a lot faster to create a character. Like if you're a level 12 D&D 5th edition character and you got to make a new one because they died or something, that's a lot of work. But if you're in Shadowdark, dude, it's so fast to create a new character no matter what level you're at, that it's like, oh, my rogue died, I'll just make a new one, I don't care, it's easy, you know.
Oh, when you die in the Godstein, you don't create another level 12 character. You know what level you start at, Luke?
1.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, how does that work? I mean, I know mechanically how that works, but like, how palatable is that to your characters, your players?
So when they have multiple characters around, losing one, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, they'll have, so I have a player in chat right now, who he would like everyone to know that he has 8 characters. He's an outlier. He's one of the more dedicated players to the setting. But I mean, players die all the time, or characters die all the time. I actually have a so the current death rate in the world, I believe, is 23.6% death rate for characters right now.
Per game session?
Had like,
or like
no, total.
Like every game, there's going to be a few of you that die.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, total. I think we've had something like 55 characters and 13 deaths.
Okay.
Total. I want to say, I'm not sure if that's entirely accurate.
You gotta get your quota up. That's kind of low.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it? But oh yeah, okay. So my player is in the chat correcting me. He says we start at level 2. So what the reason is they start at level 2 with no gold, because they can pay to be trained to level 2. So it's a little bit different, but
yeah, I mean,
so I do have them start at level 2.
Yeah,
but
it's know, it's okay if you forget the rules of your game and you don't go to all your game sessions, so it's gonna happen, you know.
Yeah, that's another one of the DMs in chat there too.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
awesome. I think we have so they can correct me. I think it's a 23% death rate. 23.6 is the current death rate. Approximately 1 out of every 4 characters created has died, including 2 of my own. I do play sometimes as a player. I don't play on the god level because I'm the referee, but sometimes I'll play on the character level. I actually played today on the character level.
What? Yeah. So Dundermoose is one of your players?
No, Dundermoose isn't one of my players.
Oh, okay.
Dundermoose, he and I do a show together quite frequently.
Oh, cool. Yeah, he said get Goodstein. Get Goodstein.
Yeah.
Get good.
He's clowning on me. It's fine.
Get good.
No, Ice543 is one of my players though.
Oh, okay. Sweet.
Yeah,
so like I saw
Dundermoose is my co-host.
Oh, okay. Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
So somebody asked in chat about 15 minutes ago, we were talking about one-to-one timekeeping, and they asked, how do you run a mega dungeon with one-to-one timekeeping? Because like you could be on level 5, game session stops.
Well, there are a lot of ways. This is actually a really good question.
Okay.
We did a full 2-hour show on just this question.
Oh geez, so, don't give me like the 5-minute version.
Yeah. So let's say you're playing something like, I don't know, Dungeon of the Mad Mage, Mara Maze, something like that. So these are actually really good things to run on one-to-one time, because you kind of get to see exactly what happens to the dungeon when it's left alone for a week sometimes. But also, like when you go down, and I know you have run Dungeon of the Mad Mage, so I'm going to use Undermountain as an example because I've seen your video on it. So if you go down into a dungeon like this, there are usually multiple pathways you can take from the very beginning, right? So, you know, one week you go one pathway, the next week you go another pathway, but also things change every time you go in there. And you know what's really, really cool about doing this in one-to-one time? It makes one thing very, very useful when you find them: portals. If you can find a portal that goes to a lower level or a portal back, then you can make bank on that. But also, there are other things that work in your favor as well. There are, I believe, in the first level of Dungeon of the Mad Mage, there is a group of vampires, right? You remember them?
They're pretending to be vampires, but yes.
Yeah, I wasn't going to spoil that if there was anybody in the chat. Okay,
I mean,
fine.
The adventure is like 10 years old. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Leave your angry comments below, whatever.
If you haven't read Undermountain by now, you deserve to have it spoiled. But anyway, so there's that group of actors down there pretending to be vampires. They're another group doing the same thing you are. You know, what if you kill them off or send them away and take their territory? You have a pretty defensible place to rest in this dungeon for a week. You can spend a week, possibly long rest there, and you know, defend the position pretty effectively. They have a very good position in that dungeon. You could take that. That could be yours.
My players killed them all. They slaughtered them.
Yeah, so did mine.
That was my youngling group. They were all like around 14 years old or something, and they're just like, just kill everything. You know, the girls wanted to talk to everything first, and the boys were just waiting until it was time to kill them. You know. So basically, so essentially what you're saying, it sounds like, is in a mega dungeon, time keeps on running, so you kind of got to plan what you're going to do when the session ends. So you're not just pausing time. You have to have a plan for what happens, because
most of the time, yes. Because so first of all, if you're diving down into the 23 levels of Undermountain and players are like able to rest in the dungeon most of the time and they have no reason to return to the surface, you're not tracking arrows, you're not tracking rations, you're not tracking any of that, I would argue that you're not getting the most out of that dungeon anyway. But if you force them to find a defensible position, and they can keep returning to that position as a base, essentially. So you can, you know, they can have bases, but also in Undermountain, there are a lot of portals that go around to different places. If you have a portal that goes right up to the surface, because there is a portal from the level 1 to level 10, remember, then that's powerful. That's good. But also multiple entrances. Like there's a lot you can do with a mega dungeon in one-to-one time. In fact, I think they're much better in one-to-one time.
That would make it really interesting. This is one of the reasons, just talking about this and the possibilities, that it's like, I gotta run a game like this just to see how it pans out, to see what it's like, you know, because I've been running the same type of games for my entire life. You know, go into a dungeon, kill stuff, go back to town, you know, go back into another dungeon, and it's like, I want to run something different, and this way of running just sounds really cool, you know. If you have different players at each game, but we were back to the Braunstein, the way you were describing the way you run your game, is you have different players that might show up to each different game session, right? So like, how does that work if you have 5 players at one game session, and let's pretend they're in a dungeon, right? And then let's say they pause the time in the dungeon, let's just say. And then in the next game session, 2 of those players aren't there, and there's 1 new player that's there. Like, how would that resolve itself?
So that's more of a question of pause time, which is the default. That's normally what people do. That is like the way that people would normally run these dungeons, is they pause at the end of the game session, and then the next week, you know, you have 1 new player and 2 players who aren't there. That's kind of an age-old question that pause time or standard time games have to work with, which is why I advocate not doing that as much as possible. Sometimes it's inevitable and you do have to pause in a dungeon, and then you can use downtime to catch up. But I would advocate for trying not to do that. You probably want your players to have a base in the dungeon. Now, as far as if a new player comes in, if they have a brand new character, you can probably work them in with in the mega dungeon. But normally, ending in town is always best, because in town you not only get to take a rest,
Right.
but you can also do your downtime activities. You can't do your downtime activities if you end, like, if you have a base in a dungeon, like, and somebody has enough XP to level, well, there are no trainers down there, and guess what? Trainers are required to level. Too bad. You just kind of gotta not level.
Yeah. It's also
so
easy
there
to
are incentives.
Yeah, it's also easy to justify two players. You're in town. Two players that were in the past session aren't there, and three different ones show up. Well, you're in town. They decided to not go, and the other people came, and it's easy. So I definitely,
it solves that problem.
So when I was thinking through the 1-to-1 timekeeping and stuff, and I was planning and thinking how I'm going to do it for my Shadow Dark campaign, I've pretty much resolved that time will not pause in a dungeon. Period. End of story. My players are going to have to plan for what to do. They have to keep an eye on the clock, and when it gets close to the end of the game session, they're going to have to get the heck out of Dodge. Essentially, they're going to have to figure out how to do that. If they don't, then they're literally going to be in the dungeon for a week, and I'm going to adjudicate what happens. And we'll have to figure out what that looks like. You know what I mean? But I guarantee you, if I tell my players, and these guys, they die a lot, right? It's pretty brutal. And so I guarantee you, if I tell them that if you're down here for an entire 2 weeks and I'm deciding what happens, they're not going to stay there. They're going to make sure they leave. They're not going to trust me with that. You know what I mean? So.
And that kind of goes to, like, a lot of people will pause in the middle of a dungeon, but and people will do that all the time, and they think, well, how am I going to switch this timekeeping if we're always pausing in the middle of a dungeon? But if you tell the players that you can't end in this dungeon, they're gonna believe you. They're gonna adjust how they play to conform to that. But also, I would say if they do end in a dungeon and you have kind of an emergency quick end, I would make sure they don't just ragdoll. Like the characters still exist as competent characters in the world, unless somebody isn't competent.
Right.
But so I mean, it's not just like, oh well, goblins come and stab you, and since you're not there, you can't fight back. It's not like that at all. You would assume that they behave like reasonable, competent adventurers in that situation. Not that I would think you wouldn't.
Of course.
Of course, I would expect the exact opposite from you, because I'm gonna gush now, because this was my favorite channel back when I was like fairly new to DMing, I think. But no, you helped me get a lot better at DMing. So
thank you.
I would hope that you wouldn't ragdoll your players after the game.
I would figure something fair and equitable out. But the biggest problem in a Shadow Dark campaign of staying in a dungeon for 2 weeks, because our game sessions are every 2 weeks, are you really going to have that many torches? I don't think my players don't carry that many torches with them. So like they're going to run out of torches and lantern fuel, and they're going to be in the darkness, and that's a bad idea. So no, I 100% guarantee you my players will never end a game session in the dungeon. There's no way they're going to do it. What I'll probably do to be equitable about it is I'll come up with some sort of mechanic where I let dice decide what happens. It'll be some sort of random table, and it'll have it'll have a nice bell curve where like the majority of the time they're kind of okay, but sometimes something bad happens. So I'll probably not just like Luke decides. I'll probably make it a table that gives them the benefit of the doubt. You know what I mean? As opposed to like, because I can see there might be some situations where the game session ends. Like, for instance, the biggest one is like if they're in the middle of a big fight. They've been into some fights that are just these long, sprawling battles that take a couple hours, which is rare in Shadow Dark, because Shadow Dark fights tend to be very quick and brutal, but sometimes they just get into these long fights where like the goblin retreats and gets his buddies, or they chase after him and run into some more goblins, and it just gets crazy. So like I can see them like in the middle of a big fight and the game session comes to an end, and then they're like, oh crap. But again, I think what they would do if they knew that was going to happen is they would start to retreat from that fight. You know what I mean? Which you can actually do in Shadow Dark because they don't have opportunity attacks, which is the biggest problem in 5th edition. It's like retreating is horrible because you will get opportunity attacked, and if you disengage, the enemy will just run up next to you and hit you in the next round. So running away in 5th edition is like a bad idea. The game is poorly designed in that regard, you know. But in Shadow Dark, not that hard to run away. It's not nearly as difficult. So like my players would just disengage from battle. So that's probably how they would handle it. So yeah, I think they'd figure it out.
A lot of times they don't need to leave the dungeon entirely. They can just barricade them up.
Yeah.
Barricade themselves and find a nice place to rest. But also, if it's Shadow Dark, you have to remember in your bell curve tables to include like that. What's it called? He's on every Shadow Dark table. The merchant that like appears, squeezes through the cracks or whatever, and is the Wandering Merchant, I think it is.
Okay.
It's like a demigod in Shadow Dark. You know what I'm talking about.
No, I don't actually. I haven't seen
You don't?
that.
He's on like every Shadow Dark table. He's like 99 on every table.
Okay, so like I haven't read the tables. I just roll on them, and then when it comes up, I'll adjudicate and we'll do it. But I don't actually.
The first time I ran Shadow Dark, that was the first thing I rolled, and then I was like, "What is this? Why is this on the table for like in the middle of a dungeon?" And then it turns out he's on like every table, and he's like a demigod. Yeah.
I want to talk about what prep looks like for these types of games, because I saw a comment in chat from somebody where they're like, they said, I don't know if this is true or not, and don't answer this now, but they said that these aren't the type of games you prep for. And so I saw their comment and I immediately was like, really? So what does prep look like then? So I want to talk about that. But what we're gonna do first is I'm gonna do a shameless plug for our sale that we have going on. So ladies and gentlemen, over on the dmlair.com, if I can get the like actual screen up, we have a sale going on right now. You can save up to 50% on everything on our store. Go on over there, and we have 2 discount codes at the very top. What you want to do is you want to put your crap in your cart, the things you want to get, maybe the DM Lair Ultimate Collection, every single book we have, Secret Art of Game Mastery, Layers of Legends and stuff. Put it in your cart and then enter both codes, and then the appropriate discounts will be applied. But the sale is going to end tomorrow. Tomorrow is the last day. And this is a huge discount, so this is the time to get something that you've been eyeballing. So go do that. And then the next thing that I wanted to do, if I can find the right page, is, and she left. Good, because I was gonna do a bio break. Excellent. We're gonna take a quick bio break, but I have a video for you. All right, we'll be back soon. Too busy working to really get too deep into that stuff. Go check out Dungeon Drifters. There's a link in the description. One of our moderators will throw a chat to it as well. This is the board game that we're launching on Kickstarter in about 2 months. It'll launch in April. So this is super, super cool. I envision it's like a dungeon crawler. It's D&D adjacent in a way. Basically, you pick a character, you dive into dungeons, you defeat monsters, you gather all their loot, and you try to be the first to escape the dungeon with the most loot, essentially. It's a competitive game that you can play with your friends, casual gamers, family members that maybe aren't super into like heavy rules and complex setups and stuff like that. Just a little quick, well, it's not a quick game. It usually takes about an hour and a half or so maybe for a game. But the point is that you can get in playing super fast. And we have crazy artwork for it as well. Like I have a whole bunch of, you're in the way. These are like some of our prototype acrylic standees that we have for it, full color artwork. These are prototypes. These are about twice as big as they're actually going to be, but we needed to get some prototypes so that we could take photos and crap like that for like marketing and stuff. So, but the artwork is stinking amazing in these things. So anyway, there's a link down in the description. You just click it. It'll take you to a page where you can learn more about the game. You can sign up to be notified when we go live. You can follow the Kickstarter page. And if you put down a $1 reservation, when you so you put down a $1 reservation before we launch, like you could do that like right now. And then when we do launch the project and you back, you're going to get a free miniature, Slick Von Arachne and his loot drop included with your pledge when you back. So you put down the $1 reservation now, today, or whenever, anytime before we launch in April, and you're fine. And then you're gonna get that free mini. And that $1 reservation goes toward your pledge as well. So it's literally just like, put this money now, it counts toward later, you get a free mini. It's like score. Oh no, I got black screen. got black screened. All right, there we go. Got it.
I can still see you.
All right. Dude, I did my shameless plug, and then I came back and you were gone. I was like, you had disappeared.
Uh-oh. No, I'm here.
No, I think you left. I left too. I'm messing with you.
Ooh, what kind of tea is that?
Peppermint. Peppermint from
nice.
from Meyer.
Oh, Meyer.
Do you
I
have?
haven't seen a Meyer in like 15 years.
Yeah. Well, geez, you're missing out because, I mean, if you don't have Meyer, you have to go to Walmart, and I don't know. I don't like Walmart. I don't know. I don't like it.
I like Walmart.
Do you?
Yeah.
The Walmarts where I'm near are like really trashy. I don't know.
Dude, I used to run for a group online who was all in Europe, and they came to the US like last year. And I had like a whole list of like historic sites and cool things I was going to show them. And they were like, no, we want to see Walmart. We have to go to Walmart. Can please let us go to Walmart? So,
Yeah.
are we back on?
Oh
we're
yeah,
back on.
we're back on.
Okay.
Yeah, we're back on. Yeah. I like Meijer's basically kind of an upscale Walmart, but it's still cheap-ish. You know, I still buy almost everything at Aldi. Aldi is like amazing. You get all my stuff I can at Aldi, and then I go to Meijer for the things I can't get at Aldi, which isn't too much, but there's some stuff. Because I'm very frugal. Like if I don't have to spend $10 on something, then I won't, you know. So anyway,
That's fair.
but Walmart, I don't know. I don't. Oh, it's just. I avoid it. Meijer's my jam when I have to go. But I hate going to the store anyway. So anyway, but let's talk about D&D. How's that?
Prep. Yeah.
Okay, prep. So, what does prep look like for these types of games? Because, like, yeah, talk.
So prep for this is a little bit different than prep for like a campaign module or something, because you have to kind of see what your players are doing. There are some people in the chat who are kind of in my circle who are saying things like zero prep and no prep. That I don't.
I'd lose my mind.
Huh?
I'd lose my mind with zero prep. I don't know.
I don't necessarily advocate for zero prep for this type of game, but I definitely think that low prep might be the way to go, because players all have a different idea of what they want to do. So you have to kind of see like what they're doing during their downtime. Are they preparing for a certain type of adventure? What are they going to do? Because a lot of times you can sort of prep it on the fly. That's what I do. So the thing is, in a sandbox campaign, you can't prep everything.
Yeah.
If you have a campaign with a ton of adventuring sites and you don't know which your players are going to go to, a lot of your prep time is going to be wasted anyway.
Yeah.
I would not advocate for prepping for everything in a sandbox campaign until you know where your players are going.
Right.
Which I think you mentioned that earlier, to do that.
Yeah.
If you don't know what your players are going to do, don't bother prepping anything. That if you have no idea what they're going to do, then the only thing you need then are random encounter charts. And if you have no idea where they're going, well, guess what? They're going to have to deal with random encounters on the way. But also, like, what I like to do is a couple weeks ago, they were like wanting to go to this pyramid because a lot of my setting is desert, and of course there are pyramids in desert. Why wouldn't there be? So they wanted to go to this pyramid, and all we knew was that a lich lived there. So basically, I was I like threw a random encounter at him and was like, okay, while you're dealing with this, I was kind of preparing for, like, you know, what does the entrance to this pyramid look for? So I'm like always maybe a step or two ahead of them.
Yeah.
But you don't need to have everything prepped and ready to go by the time they're there. You just need to know what the entrance looks like. Basically, if they're going to a dungeon, you should probably know the first couple rooms of the dungeon and the main idea of what's in it. That's probably all you need. Yeah. And then, you know, once they've kind of gone in and seen a little bit, come back out. All right, now you know they're interested in going back. You can prep the rest. I definitely, yeah. So I know. I think Crafty Matt's in chat talking about zero prep.
Yeah, I saw.
Zero prep is like hyperbolic rhetoric. that a lot of people in my circle use, but really it just means, you know, don't prep everything.
Yeah.
Give yourself a break, and your players understand that it's not worth it for you to prep every single cool site around this town that the characters are in when you don't know what the players are doing. So a lot of times I let the players sort of tell me what's around, and I do that in a very strange way because I have in my game, I level cap everything at class level 8 unless they complete an epic quest to get them to class level 9. In some cases, in other cases, they just have to travel to a certain part of the world. But class level 9 in my game is important because that's where you get your 3rd level spells. That's where you get like your 3rd attack if you're like a fighter. So what I do for the clerics and for the warlocks, I will have another player acting as the god or the patron, right? And I tell the gods who have a cleric dedicated to them in the world, you need to come up with a quest for this cleric. The cleric needs to get it around level 5, and they have to complete it in order to level to class level 9.
So they go they go from 5 to 9 like that? There's no
No, they have 4 levels to do that.
Okay.
So the cleric will get the quest usually around class level 5, but it has to be completed or they cannot hit class level 9.
Oh, okay, I got you.
So that's one way I have players. I kind of outsource the prep to the players a little bit.
Yeah,
because those are important quests, right?
When you said, and it goes back to the players having role played the deities in world creation. When you said that if there's a cleric dedicated to this deity, that player who plays that deity has to decide what it does, I was like, oh, that's so cool. Because then, like, I don't have to think it up. The other player has to think it up, you know, and that just, it's another way. Now, there are some players who probably won't like that, right? But, you know, I think a lot of players probably will. And that is another way to get them more invested in the world and more invested in the game. You know, and they're not just on the periphery seeing other people doing stuff, but they're actively involved, you know, in that stuff. So that is really cool. Yeah.
So, but that's a way I kind of push the prep or spread it around a little bit, because you can have a world with only one person prepping it, but it never makes complete sense because in a real world there are kings, there are kingdoms that all do different things and all act with independent minds, and putting that into one person's brain never works as well as putting it into 8 people's brains or 10 people's brains.
It makes sense. So, yeah, because like you think in a way that's unique to you, I do unique to me. So like if I'm creating the entire world, it's all gonna kind of be according to Luke's brain, you know. Whereas somebody else is going to be like, no, dude, I'm doing it this way and stuff. And you get more creativity, more interesting things are going to happen, you know, so it totally makes sense. Yeah.
But also there are like real examples in history where like you have people wanting very different things, and these people are playing against each other and doing like unpredictable strategies, and this is like all throughout history, and it's just so hard for one person to put themselves in the role of like 10 different people involved in a conflict and accurately say what each one should be doing. That's too much for one person. I don't know anyone who can handle that. But when you have 10 different people doing it, well, sometimes you don't get the results you expect, but they will be exciting ones.
Yeah, it'll be cool. Yeah. So there was a comment. Greg Piet says, what I like about this is that the players have to decide what they are doing. They won't be spoon-fed. And that kind of like you had mentioned before about when we were talking about zero prep, and then I had mentioned prepping things once the players tell you to they want to go do something. And his comment kind of ties into that, because my solution, the way that I'm planning on running my Shadow Dark campaign, that is in a way a lot of based upon what we're talking about here, is it's literally going to be the players are going to create the world, you know, they're going to be deities, they're going to create the world, right? Then they're going to be characters, okay? And I'm definitely going to do what you said, and like they can't be a cleric dedicated to their own deity, they got to be a different deity. That is great. And then, but what I'm going to do is like the way that I'm a pretty big prepper. I like to have, especially if you're in a dungeon, right? I want the dungeon to be prepped, because then it's just going to be so much better. You know what I mean? I'm really good at making dungeons, and I want to make it nice, you know. And it's a paid game, and it's not cheap, and so I want it to be a very good experience. So what my solution is going to be is my players will tell me in advance, we want to go do this thing, and then I will be able to prep it, and then they go do that thing, you know. And even if we're getting toward the end of that thing, I'll let them know, hey guys, we probably have one session or something left of this, so you need to let me know what you want to do after this, so I can start prepping it. And so that's going to be it's going to be my way of running the sandbox, so that they can literally do whatever they want, but it gives me the time to prep it, so that they can have a really, you know, polished game experience, so to speak.
I do that a lot too. I ask them, you know, do you guys know what you're going to be doing soon? A lot of times their answer is, I don't know, maybe so but they're pretty good at figuring out their own goals usually.
Yeah.
A lot of them will have their own goals. Like one of my groups in the world is actually a traveling WWE show. Is everything okay? Oh, you're.
Oh no, yeah, man. I'm trying to get my cat up here. I'm like, I can't breathe. No, my cat. Yeah. I'm like, he's down there looking at me, and I'm like, come on, buddy, let's go. Okay. Come on, buddy. Yeah, I'm good.
I was a little bit concerned.
No, it's good. No.
But yeah, no, one of my groups is like a traveling WWE show. So I usually know that they're going to be traveling and then putting on a show at every major city. And I've come up with mechanics for how that works. It's like a push your luck game, basically. You go too far, you bust, you get nothing, right? But they're pretty good at figuring out their own goals, generally.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just,
man.
I've never run a game. I've never run a game like this, and it just sounds super exciting. You know, I'm sure it's going to be there's going to be things always really sound good a lot of times on paper and in theory. And then when you actually do it, that's when you start to run into little like hiccups and stuff. So I'm sure there's going to be little things where I'm just like, oh crap, how does this work? How do I do this? You know, unfortunately I have somebody that I can just, you know, be like, hey, what do I do? So yeah, it'll be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll be a lot of fun. So
I think it will be too. My biggest struggle with it wasn't necessarily the first couple sessions, like the Godstein at the beginning. It was keeping the gods involved in the world after we were playing as the characters. And I had a few ways of doing that. I kind of told you the mana, and I've actually written all about this on my blog. I told you about the mana, but I also have another way that causes a lot of drama.
Okay. By the way, folks, all the links to Harmony's socials are down in the description. So she's on Twitter, X, and she has a YouTube, and she has a blog site on Substack too. So you can go down there and check out all of her crap, which is good crap. It's very high quality, nice stuff. So that's just the way I talk. I say crap. You know, if I'm like, this is amazing and spectacular, you should go get it, you probably know I'm full of crap. But if I say it's good crap, then it's good crap. So anyway, but what is the other method that causes drama?
We have monthly elections for the god of the month. Basically, it's our version of like astrology. Basically, the stars align for one god every month. Okay. And that god gets to take a major action in the world. Things that they have done, like one of them gifted a bunch of the dwarves psionics. One of them switched 2 hexes on the board, which caused a lot of problems. One of them has, oh gosh, there were so many now. One of them just put portals in some of the forests that connected them. So one of them is going to try to exterminate the spider people, which is no good for the god that controls the spider people. I think he might still be in chat.
They're spiders. Just wipe them out, all of them.
Yeah. So that's actually another thing I did. Whenever the players created their gods, they also had to create their chosen people. So basically everyone created a god and a race that was in the world. And that was the roster of playable races, plus humans. The DM inserted humans. Humans have to be a playable race or I'm not running it. But
hold on a second. So your players determined the races that existed?
Yes. Yes.
Ooh, that's
Each player contributed 1 playable race, and that was the full roster of playable races, plus humans. So we got spider people. Yeah.
I'm literally writing this down because I think I'm going to do that. That sounds so cool. Contributes one playable race. And then,
and weirdly, we ended up with no elves and no halflings this way. We got gnomes and we got spider people, but no elves or halflings. So
that's cool.
I don't know.
Yeah, and then it's Shadow Dark. So like, if you had a homebrew race, that wouldn't be that hard to make something up.
No.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's
like
pretty
that.
simple.
Yeah.
But so every month, what we do is the second Wednesday of the month, we have votes due. Everybody gets one vote. Every god gets one vote.
Mm-hmm.
They may pay 2 mana for a second vote secretly.
Okay.
The person with the most votes, or the god with the most votes, gets to be the divine council leader of that month. They get to do a major action in the world. They get a few mana, and they get to propose a change in voting rules. And that change in voting rules has to be passed by a simple majority. But nobody has used that for nefarious purposes yet. One complaint I got about that from a player actually was, wait, if we can propose changes in voting rules, can't we like propose changes that disenfranchise gods or give some people more votes than others and stuff? And can't we like take over the council that way? And I was like, yeah, do it.
Pantheons do that all the time. Yeah.
I want to see it.
Look at Greek mythology. Like the Titans were overthrown, and like the Zeus's children are always warring with each other and against him and crap. It's like, if you look at the Forgotten Realms pantheon, like that stuff is happening all the time. They're always doing that crap. They killed Mystara, you know, and then you get like Midnight becomes Mystra and stuff. It's like, yeah, that stuff happens all the time.
And I also have mana as like a freely exchangeable resource, right?
Uh-huh.
You don't have to have any reason to give somebody your mana.
Mm-hmm.
So I have players who will like every month, like around the time to vote. This is all written about on my blog, by the way. You can go there and read this in more detail. But every month, as it's about time to vote, I'm always getting messages like I'm giving 1 mana to him and 1 mana to him. And I'm like, okay, what? And then those guys are voting for that god. And
what?
I'm like,
okay, so hold on.
We're buying votes.
All right, I'm generating a list of questions here. So once per month, and it's 1-to-1 timekeeping, so it's literally a month, in-game, out-of-game. Once per month, there's an election. And each of the players is representing a deity that they created, and they're voting for which deity gets to lead the council, the divine council that month. Now, it sounds like you must assuredly have players who aren't always voting for themselves. They're going to vote for other deities a lot of times, right?
There is a special rule here that prevents this. In the case of a tie, I win, and I will do something in the world, and nobody's gonna like it.
So it disincentivizes them to vote for themselves.
If everybody votes for themselves, I win.
And you're gonna do something that they don't like.
I will probably roll on a table, but I'll try and scare them first.
Okay. I would make a table and I'd make it bad.
Yeah. I have a table for it. But I roll on a table, but like it can be pretty nasty, and you never know who's going to get it. But I wiped out an entire dwarven town last time that happened.
I'd take out an entire race. It's like, you know, the dwarves, they're dead now.
Out of context.
Just
canceled.
Total gone. Dwarves are gone. I would just be like, and the players would be like, I'm like, don't vote for yourself next time. Come on, I told you it'd be brutal.
Oh, yeah. I mean, some people vote for themselves, but I mean, if everybody votes for themselves, then the one person who doesn't is going to decide the winner.
Yeah. That sounds cool. Okay, so that is really cool because you have the beginning of the campaign, the Godstein is like everybody's like shaping the world, but if it just ends there, and then the question is, how do the gods? Because gods are going to continue working on the world, and so having the divine council thing once a month totally makes sense, because then the gods are still working and stuff, and that'll take place. Okay, that's cool. I like that. Now you mentioned mana. And I think you had talked about it before, and I must have spaced out, or I was looking at chat. But how do you reward? The mana is rewarded to the deities, right?
Yes, the mana is a deity resource.
Okay.
That is what I use for the resource that determines how they can interact with the world. Basically, I just do it on a simple scale of you can only have 10 mana at a time. If you get mana after 10, you have to spend it immediately, or give it to somebody else, or it's lost. if you use 10 mana, you can do a big divine action in the world, which would be like gifting a race psionics or switching 2 tiles or something big, basically.
And this is on your blog, right? This is all on your blog?
Yes, this is on my blog.
Perfect.
Like 7 mana, you can gift somebody with a feat. 5 mana, you can gift them with a half feat. 3 mana, you can gift someone with a cantrip. It's 1 mana cheaper if it's not your own character.
Okay.
If you're blessing somebody like that, it should be a blessing that has to do with your god. So, for example, if you are the god of darkness, you might want to bless them with like dark vision or something like that.
Okay.
But it has to be pertinent to your god. I have one character, the god of wrestling, who has really enjoyed blessing casters with like the grappler feat.
Oh gosh, because they're gonna do it.
Yeah, right. Because he thinks it's funny.
Yeah.
So, and you can use 2 mana to vote a second time, but you can only buy 1 extra vote that way. And of course, it's not public if you do. No one knows who's buying the extra votes. But,
yeah. How do you reward mana? How do they get mana?
Yeah. So a couple ways. If characters are completing quests for your god, then you will get a mana. That's a big way. Also, you get a mana for like player contribution to the game. So I generally give 1 mana for a character hitting level 5, and then 1 mana for every level after 5.
Okay.
If you have a character that worships a specific god, so like a cleric, then I usually reward mana at like level 5, 7, 9 to that player as well. I originally, when I did that, I had a player complain like, wait, if you're giving resources to other players, why would you play that character? And I'm like, you got to make a deal. Make them play one dedicated to you. Part of the deal. This is about dealing, you know?
That's interesting. So you have this player is running the deity of wrestling, let's say, right?
Yeah.
And this player is the cleric of the deity of wrestling, okay?
Yep.
And so when that player's character levels up, the other player's deity gets mana, right?
They both do.
They both do. Okay.
They both do. Yeah.
Okay. Now, does every player run a character that is somehow tied to a deity? So there's this relationship?
Not always, no.
Okay.
Some players don't. So that would be clerics, paladins, or this is 5e. So like we have some subclasses like I don't know. There's the divine soul sorcerer, things like that.
Yep.
That might be, but those are the only ones I will award additional mana to another player for. But also, I mean, just stuff in the game. Winning the divine council election gets you 3 mana. Sometimes, like basically, I reward it instead of inspiration.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a replacement for inspiration because you can also spend 1 to reroll a die, but
you can spend a mana to reroll a die.
Yes.
So hold on a second. But players don't get mana though, do they?
The gods get mana, so it should be a die roll that your god would care about. I tell people you have to role play this.
Okay, so hold on a second.
Yeah.
But so like if I'm a cleric, right, that worships another player's the deity for another player though, and I want to use a mana to reroll a die, would I be using the other player's deity's mana?
You use your own.
I use my own deity's mana.
Yep.
But so if I'm a cleric of the deity of wrestling, but I created the deity of magic, and I want to reroll a die, I'd be taking from my magic deity's mana?
So generally, it's kind of loose in that you would use your own deity's mana because but it needs to be something that your god cares about. If your god doesn't care about your character, if there is no reason that your god would care if your character succeeds, like maybe your character is fighting something that your god would like to see dead, if there's no reason your god cares, you shouldn't be using the mana. Someone else can, but you shouldn't be using it. It's about role playing there.
I kind of like the idea that it replaces inspiration or hero points, because then if you want to reroll a die, you're using a mana, which is a really important resource when you do your deity actions. So like you don't want to just blow it on nothing. You know, you kind of want to save it up to a certain extent so you can do some cool stuff. So that makes it a really big decision to use it seems like.
Yep.
Yeah.
It does.
I like that.
They can also use it to send monsters after specific characters. Basically, I kind of tell them you can use as much mana as you want to do that, and then
Yeah.
send something of like double the CR and 5e.
Yeah.
So like you spend 5 mana, CR 10. I don't care if it's up if
I-
you're sending it after a level 2 character.
I
Do
feel
what you
like
want.
the way I would do it in Shadow Dark is basically for every mana you use, it would give you 1 CR level or 1 level of monster. So if you use 10 mana, you're sending a CR 10 after the character, or it might double it, so it might be a CR 20. And so like, and then you wouldn't send it when they're with the group. You'd send it when they're during their downtime, right? Because that's when you would do it. Come on, let's be real, right? Get them when they're most vulnerable.
And let's be real. If a deity really cared so much about killing a player character, they're probably going to do it
when they're all by themselves. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. And somebody's brought that up to me before. They were like, so what if we want to like kill another player character and we have 10 mana? And I'm like, well, at least hold them hostage first, demand something. Like, you can probably get paid off not to. I want that dynamic. You should do it.
That's interesting. Yeah, because if you can move terrain and like wipe out an entire city, then wiping out one character is trivial. You know, it's just like, yeah.
If you want your god to spend their resources bullying someone, you should do it. I condone that.
That's
you know
gonna
why?
Start a
because
war.
Exactly. The other players at the table, they'll be like, what did you just do? And they will punish you and it will be funny.
Oh, you just have to, I think this is where it's really important. 2 things. 1, you got to have the right players in the group that they know that this is a possibility and they're okay with it. And that kind of ties into the consent idea where it's like, they need to know that this is on the table so that it doesn't get them by surprise and people don't get really upset about it, you know? Because it's really cool and it's awesome. But if you don't know it's possible and it catches you, you know, then you can really cause some problems. But as long as everybody's aware and everybody's like, yeah, baby, let's do it, you know, that can be super fun, you know. Yeah, that sounds cool.
And that's something. This is the coolest campaign I've ever run. I've run a lot of campaigns in my life. I've finished a lot of campaigns. This is by far the most fun campaign I've ever run for me, and I think for the players. I've had a lot of players tell me that they've never played in a campaign like this before and they love it, but there are some players that I had before I started running like this that I don't think would do well in this type of game. Now, it doesn't need to be a player that loves PvP, but it has to be a player who takes things in stride and understands like my investment in the world is beyond my character. And if I lose one of my characters, if someone smites them down, well, that's just the game.
Yeah.
And I should get them back.
Yeah. And Greg in chat says, with the wrong players, this is so toxic. Yes, you have to have the right players. There has to be a basic understanding that this is on the table and that this is in game, right? And but because I can see there are some players that they would get nasty with this, and it would no longer be role playing. It would mostly just be, I'm screwing people over and I get my jollies from this, you know?
I tell people when they enter the game or at the very beginning of the campaign, look, PvP is on the table. You might get cornered in a situation where you have absolutely no hope of survival by another player, and I am not going to intervene to help you. You will probably just die there. And if that happens, the mature way of handling it is send assassins back, wipe him off the face of the earth, make him pay, handle it like an adult.
Like an adult. Yeah, I mean, shoot. Like, if you break into my house and kill one of my cats, you know I'm coming after you, you know? Yeah, it's like, I'm not just gonna be like, oh, police report. No, it's down or it gets on, you know? Yeah.
Rally other players. Rally them to your defense. Make sure it doesn't happen again. Wipe him off the face of the earth. He deserves it.
Trade mana.
That's what I tell them.
Trade mana to get the other gods on your side. Yeah, 100%, dude.
Or... I mean, if somebody just gets wiped out, if there is a god that is going around smiting players for no reason, like, okay, the only time we've really had a god go after player characters in the campaign was when they sort of desecrated a shrine to the god, which, you know,
yeah, sure, absolutely,
they were kind of asking for it.
Yeah.
But but if a god is just going out smiting player characters, there are ways to punish them. Like you can go after their supporters, you can go after them, cut them out of the Divine Council, make sure they get nothing.
That's
like,
true. Yeah, because there's this balance. You know, you mentioned like diplomacy before, like the game of diplomacy. So there's this like balance, and so if somebody's being a real turd, then the other players they won't put up with it, and they'll take measures. Yeah. That it totally makes sense. Yeah, that sounds really cool. I kind of want to do that for my Shadow Dark thing, and I don't know though. What do you think? So like, I'm running this for. Now, some of them have played with me before for several sessions of Shadow Dark, but some of them are going to probably end up being brand new players that have never played with me before. And so let's just pretend that I have a group of 5 to 6 players that have never played with each other before. You know, could this sort of Braunstein with PvP work? Or what is the chance for it to be a disaster? Assuming that I tell them in advance that this is a possibility. They need to be aware, but like, how might this work?
So I have not played this with many strangers. I think there are 2 people in my campaign right now that I have not played with before. Maybe like 3. So most of the people, I'm well aware of their play styles. And I know that they can take things in stride, but that's one thing, is you have to be very, very clear that, you know, you may never hit conflict in this campaign. You may be part of the get along gang. You may have a very happy time, and your supporters may never face any sort of strife. However, the enemies in this campaign are a lot of times run by other players. And that means that you can die, you can lose, and it might not even be fair. And you have to be okay with that. And you have to be just ready to be an adult about it and, you know, send an assassin back. That's how you deal with things, because if I start intervening and saying, you know, I'm sorry, you can't send assassins after John's character because John's a little crybaby, then that breaks the game. I can't do it.
Yeah, so, I feel like so I'm thinking this over. I think what I might do is I'll start this campaign up, and we won't have PvP at first. I want the players to get to know each other a little bit and feel more comfortable. And then probably I'll say, okay, at this point, guys, we're going to introduce this mechanic. When we do the deity and the creation at the very beginning, PvP has to be on the table because that's part of the world creation. But it's a little different at that point, right? You know, because you're not literally, the gods probably aren't attacking each other. But like once the campaign is rolling, I'll have PvP off the table just to get everybody so that you feel more comfortable and you start to know each other a little bit more, because then I feel like if you then say, okay, now we're going to run in, now it's a possibility, right? Then I feel like it's probably going to be a little bit more likely to work well and not have people upset at each other, you know?
So PvP doesn't necessarily like work super well at low levels anyway.
Okay.
Because I mean, at low levels, you're not really gonna do anything to upset a god.
Yeah.
Unless you like go to their shrine and like, you know, draw inappropriate images on it or something. But so you're not really going to cause problems for a god. So there's really no reason for PvP at lower levels until you get to where people are like commanding armies or the head of a church or have a wizard's tower or something like that. Then things get a little more on the table, or when people get enough gold to like bribe a dragon to kill the next gnome you see, which happened in my game. You know.
Todd is saying not to constrain them. He says if you constrain them and they're not really getting to know each other, when you turn PvP on, somebody's gonna get blindsided. Yeah, but when I turn it on, I'll literally tell them it's on the table, so it shouldn't be blindsided because then they'll expect it. You know, somebody's gonna start doing this. You know,
I probably wouldn't advise like straight up banning it at the beginning. I'd probably just, you know, remind them, hey, this is a possibility, and I would recommend kind of at the beginning of the campaign running it maybe in a couple different cities, and when you have downtime for one group, like if one group is taking 2 weeks to level to 5 because that takes just a little bit longer, then you go to another city, and so people will have a couple different characters. That way, if something happens to one of them, well, that's not their only character, and the other character can travel to their preferred group, things like that, just to kind of ease the pain of PvP.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah. So I do have a comment in chat I would like to address if that's okay.
Yeah, yeah. What are they saying?
Yeah, one of my players says that I need to tell about the Trilk.
Oh yeah, I saw that comment. What is that?
Yeah. Right. So I told you about these monthly elections, right? So this month, just to kind of give an example of how it works, I had 2 players that were really competitive for the title of Divine Council Leader this month. I had one girl, she plays the nature goddess. She's very well liked by everybody, the player and the goddess. Neutral good, right? And people kind of were rallying around her. She was campaigning for portals in the forests, and there wasn't really a strong challenger to her until I had a new player who was playing the wrestling god come out, and in all caps in the chat he's writing out, "All right, so Tia Goron has a really great idea for all of you. I think it would be really cool to replace the blood of every cow with nitroglycerin." and make it so that when you milk a cow, it gives you health potions. And so they started this like Trilk meme where like they're like, "Babe, you haven't finished your Trilk," because it was like troll cows at that point, because he got the idea from a troll and he was like the god of trolls. So they were just like, "Babe, you haven't finished your Trilk." But that became like the big thing this month was forest portals or exploding cows that give healing milk.
Dude, I mean,
the cows lost.
I would have voted for the cows, because do you realize how that would have affected the game world?
Every cow would have died instantly or exploded. Yes.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Apocalyptic.
Well, maybe, but I feel like what I would probably do is like, yes, cows would explode. So I think what would happen initially is that farmers would go, like, you'd have like a 10-year-old boy, "Son, go out and milk the cows. Let's go, get your chores done." He's half asleep. He goes out to sit down on the stool, and he's gonna milk the cow, and he squeezes too hard, and your son's dead. He's just gone. And this is happening all over the world. People are freaking out. Wizards are investigating, and people are like, "What is going on?" And then your population is immediately like, just like, a lot of people are dead. Investigations happen, and then finally they figure out what happened. But as part of their research, they realize too that you can milk them gently, and if you do so, their milk is like healing potions. So they're like, "Okay, cool." So now this impacts the entire economy, right? The economy is impacted, and then you got wizards researching the healing potions, and they figure out that this can be used to extend your longevity and stuff. Like, this could impact the entire game world. Everything kind of changes. The economy shifts. All this stuff shifts. You know what I mean? Adventurers just have like bandoliers of potions. You know what I mean? But the problem is that the potions are also very explosive too. Now once you drink them and digest them, it's okay. But your bandoliers, highly explosive. So what happens now, and the only economy for healing potions are the explosive ones, because they're so easy to do. You just milk the cow. And so your adventurers now have a chance, like a 1 out of 12 chance of every time they take damage of just exploding, because the potions are volatile or something. Like, this could have, I mean, you have to go down that rabbit hole, but you could have such a cool dynamic introduced to the entire game. So after this all happens, the next council election is going to be undo the cow change,
Because that almost won it. It was like 2 votes from winning.
That would have been, I would have voted for that.
Almost won.
I would have voted for it, because that's crazy.
I have players that will like try and win based on like what is practical or useful for the player characters. I'm a good god. I want to supply them with that. And then I have people that try to win on meme magic. And sometimes that works. Sometimes meme magic will coast you to victory.
I'd vote for it.
Yeah, it would have been disastrous. I would have been here for it, but
dude, I would have voted for it. Yeah, that's the sort of thing. Win. That's the sort of thing that I would just be like, "That's so cool." And the fact that your players help with the world building and stuff like that too, takes the burden off from like my shoulders as the game master to figure out what happens.
Yeah, you end up taking a much different role in a game like this. You're not making the whole world. You're kind of getting a bunch of inputs, and your role becomes that of a referee, figuring out how this stuff interacts. Like, if somebody tells me that they're building a town here, but another player has told me, Oh, this is where there's a lair for my god's pet snake, like
Yeah.
right next to where they're building their town,
Mhm.
which the players told me that secretly
Yeah.
like a long time ago, and now somebody's, you know, setting up a settlement here.
Mhm.
Like that interacts.
Yeah.
And the
Uh-huh.
game master becomes more of a referee trying to figure out how all this
Yeah.
input interacts with each other and not
Yeah.
like just making the world, right?
Yeah, no, that's I think it sounds really cool. So like one of the things I'm planning on doing, and you know this, Harmony, is I'm gonna be making follow-up videos on all three of these topics. One-to-one timekeeping, Braunstein, and then Godstein on my channel. So it'll be normal videos, right? And it'll be with your input, and you're gonna help me and stuff, so I don't screw it up, you know, because I'm yeah, whatever. So I'll have regular videos coming out talking about these subjects. Now it's gonna be a few months because like my development process is like 2 months in advance of when a video usually comes out, except for my Saturday videos. My Saturday videos are just like whatever. But anyway, I'll have some videos coming out. So like, 'cause we talked about a lot of stuff tonight, and it was really cool. But we probably missed a bunch of important stuff too, because we just had this like meandering conversation. So in the videos we put out, then we'll try to make sure that we cover things more thoroughly than we maybe perhaps did tonight.
Do you know what this makes you, Luke?
What does this make me?
It makes you a bro.
A bro?
Do you know you're a bro? Yeah,
What does that
you're
mean?
a bro.
Is this...
That means that means you run games in one-to-one time and care about Braunstein dynamics.
Oh, I mean, I will be.
That makes you a bro.
Once I start it.
It's
Yeah.
it's an exclusive club. As soon as you start
Bro.
running that game, you're going to be a bro. You know that?
Oh man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, well,
It means you can post wrestling gifs.
do I get like a special shirt or anything?
No, but you can like
Do I get like a
post wrestling gifs.
What about a participation trophy? Because those are
no, we don't.
no?
No,
Oh, okay.
but like
I'm not from that generation, but I've heard that makes them feel good.
No.
Okay.
You don't get a participation
Oh,
trophy. You
that's
just
sad.
get like
That's sad.
you get the ability to post wrestling gifs, and when people like start saying mean stuff to you about the way you run games, it means like a bunch of guys are gonna come in and dunk on them. You know.
Oh, okay, cool.
That's what it means. Yeah.
Okay, well that's cool because people are mean to me all the time. It makes me cry in a corner.
Yeah.
It's absolutely horrible. Now, the wrestling god, he knows that wrestling is fake, right? Like he knows that, right?
Yeah, so he actually, his domains
Okay.
that he drew was light and trickery, and he's like, I'm the god of entertainment. We're gonna be the WWE guys.
Oh, okay, perfect. All right, that makes sense. Yeah, I was watching this documentary about the Undertaker. Remember the Undertaker from like wrestling? He's old now, but like he was talking about this stuff with another guy, and it was just reminding me of all that stuff. And I was like, because I remember when I was younger, my brother and I or whatever, we'd always be like, that can't be real, is it? That's not real. And there would be this whole thing of like it being real or not. Obviously now we know it's all rehearsed and stuff. Otherwise they'd have broken necks and stuff. But anyway, that's cool. So like, before we take off here, we're wrapping this up here, but we have a giveaway going on. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a link in the chat. Look for the hearts down. No, not the hearts. Look for the money bags. Look for the money bags in the chat. There's a link there where you can join the giveaway. We're going to give away $50 DM Lair store credit to the winner, and we'll draw the winner at the very end of the live stream. You got like 5 minutes to go enter the giveaway, and it's the winner gets $50, which is good because we also have a Valentine's sale going on right now on the dmlair.com. Where is this thing? Where's my screen? Okay, here we go. So right now you can get up to 50% off everything on our store. So if you've been looking at something like Lairs and Legends or the Secret Art of Game Mastery, now's the time to get it. Tons and tons of % discount. And we have the DM Lair Ultimate Collection too, where you can get every single book we've ever published at a huge, massive discount. So if you add on like the sale discount onto the standing discount for getting a bundle, you're just gonna save tons of money. So anyway, now's the time to go do this. There are discount codes at the very top of the screen right here. Enter both of these discount codes into the shopping cart and then apply both of them, and then it'll apply the discounts appropriately to the different products that you throw in there. So the sale ends tomorrow, so you want to go do this like before tomorrow or like tomorrow, but after tomorrow you're screwed. So, you know, don't sleep on it. All right, there we go. Where is my screen? All right, I lost our I lost our Zoom. I can't get our Zoom. I can't get our Zoom to come back up.
Oh no.
All right, hold on. Where? Yeah, it's. I minimized it and now I can't get to come back up on the screen. Hold on, let me. Whoa.
Uh-oh.
Oh man.
Uh-oh.
I'm like literally trying to click it, but hold on, let's see if I can. No, you got minimized, and now I can't get you back up. That is so weird. Where did you go?
I'm right here.
I know you're still with us, but I can't get your face to come back up on the stream.
Oh no.
Oh my gosh.
Can they hear me?
No, they can hear you. They can still hear you, but like I can't get. I minimized the Zoom screen, and now I can't maximize it. I don't know how to do this. Okay.
Can they still hear me?
Yeah, they can.
Okay.
Hold on a second. I'm gonna leave and I'll come right back. Stay on.
Okay.
All right, I gotta join the Zoom again. I don't know how this worked. It just kicked me out. I'm gonna have to join this again. Man. I minimized it and then it just totally screwed me over and I can't get it to maximize again. Here we go.
Harmony Ginger on Twitter. I'm sorry, Harmony_Ginger on YouTube, at Gingerblast on Twitter, since someone asked, and Harmony Ginger on Substack.
Yeah, we're back.
I don't think it showed his password. There you go.
Yeah, there's a link to all of Harmony's stuff down in the description of this video. So she's on Twitter, Gingerblast, and then she has a YouTube, Harmony_Ginger, and then she has a Substack, which is her blog post. So yeah, all that stuff is linked in the description, so you can go check it out. So I'm going to be going to your blog post to learn more, especially about the mana system and some other of this stuff, like how that all worked for the elections and stuff for the deities. So, because I want to use all that stuff. That sounds.
That
really
is
cool.
all in there.
Sweet, that's awesome.
I'm currently writing up a post on mass combat. It's been kind of hard because I've been using like a very quick Braunstein combat system that I actually yoinked from my favorite board game and modified a a bit.
What's the board game?
It's called Cosmic Encounter. It's from the 70s.
Oh, okay.
I used a lot of inspiration from that for the quick combat system for the Braunstein portion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that'll be interesting. Because I imagine in Braunstein you have mass combat. It's gonna happen.
You have to have it. Has to be quick.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah.
I found so the standard for mass combat in OD&D is chainmail, but we don't have time for chainmail combat in a Braunstein. So we have to use something quick. Traveler combat works really well for that. I don't know about Shadow Dark. I haven't tried. I've just seen Traveler combat done in a Braunstein before. Okay. But I've been using kind of a Cosmic Encounter inspired combat system. And I think if I do a Godstein 2, I'm going to switch to Amber Diceless for that.
Yeah, I'd have to figure out how to. I would probably. I don't really have a way to do that right now. I would probably just have to do some dice rolls and just call it a day.
Follow my blog and you will see it soon. What I've been doing.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll totally do that. So
it doesn't come up often.
Yeah, but when it does, you have to have a way to resolve it that's equitable, and that makes sense. But again, you can't have it take too long because that'd be crazy, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Has to be very quick.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna draw the winner to our giveaway here. Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see who won. Okay, Dan from Ontario. You won. Dan from Ontario. So I will be sending you an email probably sometime tomorrow. We'll get you hooked up with your discount or your $50 DM Lair store credit, and then there we go. So All right, sweet. I think we're gonna wrap it up right there. We covered a lot of ground and a lot of good stuff. We probably could keep on talking about this stuff because it's just so crazy cool. But go check out Harmony's stuff over on Twitter, her blog, where you can read more about this, and then you can probably just like ask her a bunch of questions on Twitter, and pick her brain on this stuff. I probably will be, because when I start up my Shadow Dark game that's using all of this, I'm probably gonna have all these questions where I'm like, I don't know what to do now. It sounded cool, but now it got real, So.
Can I say something?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. It was really cool to be on this channel because this was my favorite D&D channel for like several years, and you helped me. You helped me become a much better dungeon master, and it's like really, really cool to be on this channel now.
Cool. Thank you.
I have to say it's an honor. Thank you so much for inviting me.
You're very welcome. One of the reasons I really enjoy like helping people. It's one of the reasons I keep doing all the videos and stuff. So that means a lot. Every single time somebody comes up to a convention or whatever and just thanks me, it's like, oh yeah, it's like, that's why I do this kind of thing, to help people. So that's really cool. I appreciate that. But but it's like, you're teaching me some stuff that I just don't know either, because I think this is true for like a lot of game masters. Like, you have your sphere of like, experience and expertise, but there's so much that you just don't know. And so you can, no matter like whether you're a new game master or a veteran or whatever, there's always more stuff that you can learn and get better at, So thank you, because you're teaching me some stuff that I don't know that I think is going to be really cool, and I'm excited to try this out, and I think it's going to be lots of fun. I was describing, so at my last Shadow Dark game session, I was describing to my players what I was planning on doing for the campaign, and I could see a few of their faces were like, oh, that sounds so cool. And I was like, yeah. And I was thinking, yeah, it sounds cool, doesn't it? Yeah. So it's been my pleasure to have you on to tell us all more about this and stuff. So thank you very much. And then,
Well, thank you.
yeah, now it's like, yeah, I might have to crash one of your games sometime just to kind of experience how you run it. That would be really cool. So yeah.
Dude, I was so disappointed. I told my players, I was like, I'm gonna be on the DM layer, and they're like, who? And I'm like, the DM layer. You don't know the DM layer.
Oh man, you gotta those players. You gotta
I was
talk.
like so excited.
You gotta talk to them. Yeah.
We don't watch D&D.
Oh no, there are lots of people that don't watch this stuff, and there are so many channels out there, that you can't be aware of all of them. So yeah, it's totally fair. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
But thank you so much for coming on. It was super cool. And then like I said before, we're gonna be putting out like normal videos that talk about these things, and Harmony's going to be helping me with like the research and scripting a little bit, so that I make sure I don't screw something up. So yeah. All right, cool. We're gonna wrap it up right there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me find the button, and we're gonna stop this bad boy. And there we are. Make a funny face.